You are listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. Sustainable World Radio brings you in-depth interviews, news, and commentary about exciting, creative, and innovative ways of living. Produced in Santa Barbara, California, Sustainable World focuses on positive solutions to environmental challenges, solutions that adhere to the permaculture ethics, earth care, people care, fair share. Are you interested in learning more about permaculture projects around the globe, how to plant a food forest, restorative design, or ethnobotany? Then stay tuned to Sustainable World Radio. I'm Jill Cloutier. We're talking this morning with permaculture teacher and designer and founder of MOOF Africa. And this is Peter Murage. He's joining us from Kenya, Africa on the telephone. And Wesley Rowe and Margie Bushman of the Santa Barbara Permaculture Network are here in the studio. They met Peter in Brazil at the IPC 8 last year. So here we are, Margie, Wes, and Peter. And Margie and Wes, we can't hear you yet, but hopefully soon we'll have that figured out. All of you first met in Brazil, which is a long way from Santa Barbara and Kenya. And Peter, what were you doing in Brazil at that time?
I had an opportunity to have a trip or make a trip from Kenya to Brazil. Mm-hmm. I had gone to Brazil to attend the 8th International Permaculture Conference, which was held at Sao Paulo in Brazil. This was very, very, very encouraging and inspiring for me because once I went out, I learned a lot, and that information that I got, I'm implementing that here in Kenya.
And wonderful. And also I learned, too, that you won the bid, the African continent won the bid for African permaculturists, won the bid to have the IPC 9 located in Africa in 2009, I believe?
Oh, yes. One thing that we really achieved, and I'm very, very happy about, is that the team that we led from Africa is we really put up a bid, and a strong one, because there are other people who wanted to hold the IPC 9, but we really wanted it to come to Africa for the first time ever. And the reasons why we really wanted it to come to Africa for the first time is that most of the problems that we have in Africa, which includes drought, which includes food insecurity, which includes shortages of water and for deforestation, I think that if we could use permaculture as a tool of our rural development, this would be able to address some of the problems that we face in Africa. So it was very successful, and we are going to have IPC 9 in South Africa, in Africa.
That is wonderful. Now, Peter, tell us how you first discovered permaculture. It sounds like you started your work as an irrigation engineer, and that sounds like really important work in a country where I think the economy is based on rain-fed agriculture. And tell us a bit about your work with irrigation and then how you moved into permaculture.
Thank you very much, Jill. Actually, this was the area that which inspired me to get into permaculture or to think something otherwise out of water. Because in Africa, it is largely thought that the limiting factor in the food production is water. And that what I mean is rainfall. So when we give the farmers irrigation schemes, we thought that when we supply water, that could be able to address most of the problems that we get in food production and also, in the rural areas. But having worked for around 17 years in this field, I was really could not understand why. If we supply water to smallholder farmers, they have enough water, but their production was not really improving. And I asked myself the question, why? Why is it that there's water, but then the food, production or the use of crops is not increasing? There must have been another reason, which was a limiting factor apart from water. And then I really looked into it, and I found that the limiting factor was largely caused by soil degradation. Soil degradation due to overuse of chemicals and fertilizers, and there was no much organic matter in the soil. So water was not the only limiting factor. And out of that, I thought that I should be able to get more details into how can I be able to help the smallholder farmers to improve their soil so that the yields of their crops could also be improved. And that is how I led into this technology, permaculture. And I started a very long journey to go and study permaculture somewhere in the United Kingdom.
Peter, are most of the smallholder farmers, are they growing food? Is it sustenance farming, or are they actually selling their food as well for income?
What happens is that most smallholder farmers who are based in the rural areas, they usually grow food or crops for food because some of them have got very large families and they cannot afford to buy food for them. So what happens is that they produce food on their own farm and then they use it as food in their families. But sometimes if they can get surplus, they usually sell that one to generate some income.
Mm-hmm. So it can be both.
Yes, it can be both, yes.
So Peter, tell us, so you went to the UK, I believe, to study, did you study with Patrick Whitefield? Tell us, when you went there, did this seem like a perfect fit? Did permaculture seem like a great fit for Kenya?
You see, people might ask, why did I have to leave Kenya? Why did I have to leave Africa to go all the way to the UK and study permaculture? The reason is that I had heard about permaculture practices, I had heard about organic agricultural practices, but the approach that we were having, or the methods that I had seen or heard about, were really not convincing to me. And we used to start from the how agricultural system in Africa was actually organic, or it was traditional agriculture. And now this is a new idea, based on permaculture principles that is being adopted in the developed countries. Why is it that those developed countries who actually influenced us to get into the Green Revolution are actually going back to the traditional agricultural systems that we abandoned here in Africa? So I really wanted to go and see exactly what is it that is being done in a developed country that that is so good and so important in food production that maybe I can buy the ideas from them. But you see, when I went there, that is a that's temperate climate. So you can see very different from tropical climate and temperate climate. But when I went there, I was really not looking for the actual practices and ways of doing things in the temperate countries. But what I wanted to learn is the principles underlying the permaculture system as a tool for agricultural development. And then I would come up with those principles and incorporate with our traditional, with some of our traditional agricultural systems, and then I could be able to come up with a sustainable agricultural method which could be used or adopted by smallholder farmers in Kenya to be able to supply foodstuffs for their families.
So you founded MOOF in 1999 after your course, Peter, and share with us what are some of the ways that you are helping to improve and raise the living standards of Kenya's smallholder farmers?
Yes, once I came back armed with the principles, I came back and the idea was to come out with a center or to come out with that knowledge, because if I had the knowledge in my mind, there's no way, that one I could be transferred direct to other people. But if I could do something, like setting up the center, whereabout I can have farmers visiting, I can be able to display some of these permaculture technologies, then farmers will be able to learn. So one thing that we have achieved in improving the living standards of farmers here is that they have been able to, at least to be able to produce their foodstuffs. And the area that I live, or in Nanyuki area, or is an area which is on the western side of Mount Kenya and is a leeward area. So it's within the semi-arid Laikipian plateau. So what happens here is that we usually get drought in most of the time. And, most of the crops do not survive because, you get a prolonged drought, especially when I was establishing MOOF, it was very difficult. But those farmers who actually adopted not all the permaculture methods, but a bit of the permaculture methods, they were able to harvest. They were able to get something from, something from their farms, unlike those who were actually not using permacultural methods. So having got something from their farms, it was cheaper for them because they could be able to feed their families and not, go to the market and look for food to supply to feed their families. So that way, they were able to save maybe a bit of some coins or a bit of some shillings, and with that money, they were able to do other things like, maybe paying school fees or paying school uniform and such.
We're on. This is Wesley, and Margie's coming on right now.
Good morning, Peter.
Good morning.
Peter, I'd like to further describe your center there at, MOOF, which is the Mount Kenya Organic Farming Center. And one of the stories that you told us was that you started it right in the, I think, second or third year, a very severe drought. And you can describe to us what the center looks like and all the things that you've done and managed to, in the period of this drought, create this center and training center for farmers. Oh,
yes, you are very correct, because it's what I told you, is that the time that I was establishing this center, it was very, very, very dry. It was a prolonged drought for almost 6 years. And to start, it was very, very difficult. But for me, one thing I knew is that I was armed with the permaculture principles, and those are the ones which I was to use, and I actually used them anyway, to come out with the center whereby farmers should be able to access and learn these principles. One thing that I really wanted to do and start with is actually planting trees, because the area is so much deforested, and there are no trees. So, in fact, there are only 3 trees, indigenous trees, that I found there. So, what I did was to come out with a very, very good layout, a very good permaculture design, which I did, and actually have it in paper. And is this one that I also presented for my permaculture diploma certificate. And I divided the area or the plot within almost 3 areas. And this is according to permaculture design. The upper area is where, there's some build-up. That's where you got the office block. And the center part of it is where we've got most of the training plots set. Then, in this land, on the lower part of it, you can imagine it's sloping from the north, from the north southwards. That's how the slope looks like. So I'm starting from the top, from the north, going downwards the south. So at the center is where you got the training plots. Then there was a seasonal spring which used to pass across. And this was a very, very useful item for us and for me, because I wanted to use it to really improve the land. Then once it went down on the lower part of the farm, that is where we've got what we call a conservation corner. This is an area whereabout we left it intact, because what happens is that once farmers get into an area, they do the clearing and clearing, and they clear it. It's all brown, and this, there's no interaction with the wildlife. There's no interaction with the predators or beneficial pests. But our conservation corner was purposely left to be able to conserve the wildlife. And the wildlife, I don't mean an elephant. I actually mean things like chameleons, spiders, things like bees, things like butterflies. And also, it also hampers the indigenous shrubs, which have got berries, and others have got flowers, which attracts beneficial pests and insects. And in that area, then we also have got a stretch of woodrot. Woodrot, which actually serves also as a weed break. And that is actually the lower part of the farm. So what I did with the dry spring was that I mobilized, or I had some help from some young men, me included. I think I was very young at that time. And we did dig a water pod, with a capacity of 500,000 liters, which was supposed to conserve that water. When the water flows, because it was just land of water coming from, all over, it was channeling it into that pod, and then we could create a habitat for, beneficial, insects like wasps and also frogs. And that pod has got water even today, even when it dries. And what we did, because I did not do the lining, the concrete or pavement on the walls, we did what we call mud padding. And this mud padding now is able to hold water within the pod. So what we have also done is we have stocked the pod with tilapia fish. Tilapia fish is a type of fish which will exist in water which is stagnant and it's not moving around. And then on the boundary, we actually have the wire fence, but that one is slowly being replaced by what we did call a live fence. And this is out of a very, very important tree species called Kayapo, which has got thorns and it becomes impenetrable by wildlife or by animals. So that one keeps the center well protected.
Now, Peter, it sounds like you have so much going on there at MOOF Africa. Could you share with our listeners some of the projects that you guys are doing? Some of them sound fascinating, your nutraceutical plants that you're growing, crops that you're growing.
Oh, yes. One reason that we have to have a MOOF is that we are also using the center to come out with strategies and ideas which are going to address poverty within the rural community and at the same time indirectly address the conservation of these World Heritage Site, the Mount Kenya water catchment. Mm-hmm. So what happens is that most of the local people, when they get problems, especially when it's so much dry, they cannot produce food, they cannot get some income, they actually migrate to the Mount Kenya forest. And they have caused a lot of deforestation and also land degradation within the Mount Kenya forest. And what happens is that MOOF was to come up with some ideas that could be able to keep people on their farms and reduce this farm to forest migration. So poverty was one problem. Food security was one problem. So we had to address and come out with programs that could be able to address poverty within the local community. And what we did is to try to come out with some projects or programs which could, in one way or the other, address land conservation or soil and water conservation, and at the same time try to generate some income. So this is how we entered into partnership with a processing partner who is Earth Oil Kenya Limited. This is a processor who does processing of essential oils, vegetable oils, and also oil for beauty purposes. And the interest is they would like to help the community. How do they help the community? The way they could help the community is by bringing up some projects or some work for them, and which will keep them busy. And finally, they would be able to generate some income. And we entered in this project whereabout we are producing borage seed oil. This was to be processed and oil extracted for, as vegetable oil or for nutraceutical uses. And we entered into partnership and in around 2004 up to 2007, and we were able to mobilize smallholder farmers to plant this crop. But what we usually do is that we always start the growing at MOOF trials, and it is also used as a bulking site for any new crop that we are having. And this was very successful. We also went up to organic certification because the processor, or Earth Oil, really needed to sell oil which was organically certified. And we were able to take around 135 farmers and 32 acres certified organic internationally by Celes and EcoCert of Germany. And farmers were able to get some income from this project of borage. Then the other one that we have also undertaken recently is a production of Artemisia annua.
That sounds fascinating.
Annua is a crop that is used to extract artemisinin. Artemisinin is one of the World Health recommended combination therapy to treat resistant malaria. And what we did was that this is a crop which actually is a drought resistant, and it could be produced at any time, and whether there is drought or if it's dry, and farmers could try to fetch some income out of this. So what we are saying is that farmers were not replacing these so-called commercial crops for their production of foodstuffs, but the money that they could get from some of these sale of these crops, they were able to buy seeds for planting on their farms, for food production. And you see, what happens is that sometimes the farmers do not have the money to buy the seeds, and then the rains comes and they miss everything, just because they could not buy seeds and plant at the right time. But with these projects, they are able to have, a bit of some money at the right time, and then they are able to buy the seeds, and then they are able to produce their own food. And I think this is working, as far as I'm concerned.
Hi, Peter. This is Margie. I just wanted to say a quick hello to you now that we have the mic, and wanted to say how special it is to be talking to you, and sort of the miracle of technology, actually, this chance to be talking. The last time, as Joe mentioned, we were all in Africa together for the International Permaculture Conference, and wanted to mention, as we've mentioned before, how organized the African delegates were, including Peter, of course, and how they arrived so ready to go and so organized to do this, and skillful at doing this networking and organizing, and but with great humility. So just wanted to say a quick hello to you, Peter, and also that the last time that we all were really happy to hear your voice, because in earlier in the year, when the political unrest was happening in Kenya, the permaculture community in California, we suddenly lost sight of Peter. We didn't hear from him, and we were very, very worried, and so and we didn't know what to do. And so at a certain point, we did, with the help of Warren Brush from Quail Springs, we organized a sacred fire. And we just, for 24 hours, thought about Peter and focused on Peter. And even over the internet, people did that. And we're so happy to then later hear that Peter was indeed safe. But anyway, Peter, I just wanted to say hello, and so grateful that for technology that allows us all to make these connections.
Oh, thank you very much, Maggie. It's good to hear your voice again, and after having that meeting in Brazil. And I'm very, very happy and, very, very grateful, and most of us here, that you have been able to help us, and also to when we had problems, I think you also got in touch with us and tried to see what's happening, especially when we had problems, this political violence. And I think the power of technology is really, really, really strong, and we are very, very, very happy about what you are doing for us, and especially even when we are in this IPC 8 in Brazil. I think, we just are talking, try to network, and also trying to know people, and actually this is where we met, and I was very, very encouraged and inspired that at least we are trying very hard, and the conditions here are very, very difficult, very, very hard in Africa. And when we come together, like we did in IPC 8, I think it also gives us more energy and more strength to keep on going. And I'm very happy to hear your voice, and all the best. And maybe one time I think next year, you should be able to come and join us again in the IPC 9. We're looking forward to seeing you. Thank you.
One question I had, Peter, it sounds like all your projects and you're kind of pouring all this positive energy, and your work is amazing in Kenya. I feel like in the U.S., we're just beginning to become aware, and Wes, if you want to add anything to this too, of food shortages and these challenges, drought, climate change. And it seems like in Kenya, you guys have been facing these issues, and you're kind of designing a blueprint on how to deal with these challenges.
Yes. As I was talking with Wes the other day, like me, it's inborn because I started this right in my parents' farm. When I was very young, I used to go to school, and during the holidays, I would be able to help my parents to really work on the farm and produce food because we were born 12 of us. And it was very, very difficult, for our parents to bring enough food on the table. So I actually know, or I'm working from a point that I have got the experience of hunger. I really know what hunger means. And, I'm trying to use, my education, my knowledge, and my, experience through moving around in the world and also in Africa, and trying to see if we can be able to come up with a system that is really going to help the rural people of maybe in Africa, and also most of the smallholder farmers, because food is really a problem, because we are having ever and ever increasing population growth. Mm-hmm. So these people have to be fed, but there has to come a way whereby food is going to be produced in a sustainable manner, and that's where I think that permaculture is really a very, very important tool to help in improving food security in this country. Yes, we are trying.
And I'd like to quickly say that one of the things that is so impressive about the work that Peter did is that he went to England, took a course, came back and did all these things that he's just described. That truly is a model to Americans who go and take a permaculture design course. The network of projects, and including all the smallholder farmers, that's what we heard when they spoke about their vision for the next IPC, the IPC 9, was that they wanted to include all the smallholder farmers, and they would speak about the unsung heroes, how to make sure that they were all included. And I think that is, when Jill asked, how did you do all of this? This is such a model to us in the U.S. to just move ahead. We are going to be facing very serious issues, and we tend to sort of hang back and think about it maybe in theory, but it's so impressive, the work that Peter has done in such a short time.
Thank you very much for those good ones.
If someone's listening right now in Santa Barbara or around wherever we're streaming, how would someone contact you, and how could they help you? Because I know there's been a lot of criticism of foreign aid coming. It sounds like you're really connected with some great organizations. How could an individual or maybe a group here in Santa Barbara help you the most? What do you need help with? And I noticed, too, that you don't have a website yet, and I'm wondering if a web designer or someone that designs websites would be a big help to you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yes, we have been unable. We have not been able to come out with our website. It's very, we have not been able. It's a bit expensive. So we would like to have, or to, maybe somebody could be able to support that. I think we will be very, very grateful, so that we are actually exposed to the world. So we would like to request those who would like to support us is, I think, Santa Barbara Permaculture Network has got their way forward, and they are really exploring ways. If there's any support which is going to come from America, I think they are the right people. We have got Wesley, and we've got Margie Bushman, and these are very, very good people. We have met face to face, and they are looking forward into ways of trying to channel funds to move. Because many donors and many supporters are looking for intermediaries, people that they know who come from their own countries. Mm-hmm. And currently, Santa Barbara Permaculture Network is really talking with PAL, or Permaculture Organization of Latin America, PAL, PAL, mm-hmm. And they're trying to see if they can also act as a conduit, or a channel for channeling funds from the U.S. to MOOF Africa and Kenya. So if you can be able to get in touch with Santa Barbara Network, you have already got a connection, and you are already in touch with MOOF Africa in Kenya.
And I would also like to give your email, if that's okay, Peter. And it's MOOF.
Okay.
Is that okay to do? It's MOOF Africa, MOOF, Africa, AFRICA, at today's, and that's today with an S, .co.ke. And Margie, did you want to add something to that, your contact information as well?
I just wanted to say that we will post that information on our website, which is www.sbpermaculture.org, and also that the IPC, the next International Permaculture Conference in Africa, it can also use support. They are so dedicated to making sure that the whole continent is involved, meaning, as we spoke about before, the smallholder farmers that really don't have money to travel, and there's all kinds of issues around traveling, visas and different things, and so there are ways to donate for that effort as well. Most of them need to be able to take a permaculture design course, and so to pay for the design course as they lead up to the actual the International Permaculture Conference. And that website is www.ipc9.org.
And Peter, we are actually running out of time, but do you have anything else you'd like to tell our listeners here in the United States about just anything else you want to add? And then we'll have to sign off.
Yes, I think it's a pity that, I'm getting you loud and clear, and I could have wanted to talk with you for long, but it's a program and it's scheduled and there's no time now. And what I'd like to assure the people of the United States is that out of what happened within the early January and February in Kenya, I think that's all. It's a mistake that we did. Kenya is known as a loving business. It's known as a peace-loving country. And that was a mistake. We call it a mistake that happened. We have come back to normalcy now, and everything is smooth now. And you can see now we even have the Atlantic government is there now, and there's peace. And we would like to welcome them to Kenya. You come and see what we are doing in Kenya. Pay us a visit.
Yes, and it sounds beautiful there. I was researching Kenya for a couple weeks now, and it's a beautiful, beautiful place filled with natural beauty.
Yeah, like now where we are actually, we just on the slopes of Mount Kenya. It's very wonderful summit. It's a mountain with its snow peaks, and it's really lovely. And there's peace, especially there's no much problem in this area, and. Just feel free, and we are friendly people. You come around and see what we are doing.
That's great. Well, thank you so much, Peter. Thanks for your time this morning, and we will definitely put your contact information. It will be up on the Santa Barbara Permaculture Network as well. Thank you so much.
You have 1 minute remaining on your card.
Well, that was perfect timing.
And also your support.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. The joys of technology. Yeah. And so, Wes and Margie, we have about 1 minute left. Do you have anything else you would like to add, or maybe give your contact information one more time as well?
Santa Barbara Permaculture Network is www.sbpermaculture.org, and the email is Margie sbpermaculture.org. And thank you, Jill. It was another kind of great adventure, phoning across to Africa and connecting live. We love doing these programs, but sometimes we have a few glitches. But it's good fun, and we're going to do it again.
Definitely will, and hopefully next time we will have all the mics up and running. And thanks for being good sports, Margie and Wes.
Yeah. Thank you, Jill.
You've been listening to a Sustainable World Radio podcast. For more information or to hear our other podcasts or interviews, visit www.sustainableworldradio.com. Sustainable World Radio is produced by Jill Cloutier. Music by Dana Lyons. Thanks for listening.